There has been a global catastrophe. The ozone layer has been destroyed by a solar flare and the Earth seems to be no more than a wasteland. A sick survivor creates a robot to take care of his beloved dog if he's to pass away. But they must embark on a journey that could be their salvation. Are they going to make it? This is the story of Finch, released in 2021. This one starts shockingly, as we see a small briefing of the Earth in ruins. So what happened, you may wonder? 10 years ago a solar flare damaged the ozone layer, and now the temperatures have risen 150 degrees Fahrenheit. The entire planet is pretty much screwed. It's a big wasteland burned by UV radiation. All natural phenomena are stronger and much more critical now. One of the few who survived is Finch, and we'll see his story here. He's a robotic engineer, and he has a suit that protects him from radiation and the heat. So one day while he's scavenging for resources and supplies for Robot Dewey, this takes him inside a store. Inside there the measurements suggest that the UV radiation is higher than usual. Dewey meanwhile picks up whatever is left in the store, and Finch tries to find some dog food. Finch leaves marks to keep track of the places he's already scavenged. We see how later Finch is wandering through a desert town that's been completely messed by the disaster. The UV rays make it impossible for the survivors to go outside, so the majority of the city has been evacuated. His suit alerts Finch that there is a storm approaching, so he gets his truck at full speed in the opposite direction, while the giant storm approaches. He manages to reach his underground laboratory just in time. The place was owned by the firm he worked for before the world was messed up by the catastrophe. Turns out Finch is unsure how much time he has left, as he has a serious case of tuberculosis. We meet his only friend and companion, his dog named Goodyear, who's waiting for him. Finch kisses and hugs his dog, and prepares the food for his only friend. While Goodyear is eating, Finch just has a sip of his drink, and the supplies are running out. Using AI, Finch has a new project to leave instructions and a developed intelligence to take care of his dog after he passes away. He really loves his dog more than anything else in the world. Thankfully he's brilliant, and he's working on a special robot that's able to do the chores and take care of Goodyear. He's also been conducting some experiments on the effects of UV radiation exposure. Finch takes Dewey's eyes and puts them in his new robot, and after turning it on, the robot nods his head to let Finch know it's understanding him. Finch is super excited that his project is taking shape, and plays with his dog in excitement as he thinks he's soon going to have a friend ready for little Goodyear. Finch goes ahead and asks the robot to tell him something about itself, and the robot actually replies to him. It tells Finch that he has a set of rules such as not harming humans, but that the most important rule he has is to protect Goodyear in Finch's absence and take care of the little doggy at all costs. There's a blackout then, and Finch has to go out to fix the wind turbine, and after he fixes it the energy comes back. Back inside, the robot decides that his name is now Jeff. Meanwhile, a giant storm is once again coming their way, and Finch decides he needs to go back and give Jeff access to the weather station, so he can get a forecast ready in advance to prevent this. Jeff notices that 4 individual storms are approaching in the next 24 hours. Apparently, there's no way to avoid them, but to make things worse, he notices that this situation will last around 40 days. When Finch hears of this, he decides that they'll have to leave and that the best option they have is to go to San Francisco. They'll have to hurry, so he gets to work immediately in the full body of the robot. After he finishes the body, he upgrades his software and operational speed, so he can learn how to walk in no time. Jeff quickly succeeds in this test and is able to walk soon enough. However, even though Finch seems happy with the progress, Goodyear doesn't like it and doesn't trust this new robot. The storms are approaching, and Finch packs all the essentials and has to unplug Jeff in a hurry, even though his data transfer is only at 72%, making Jeff behave like a kid. Finch prepares Dewey to travel and has forgotten that he took its eyes, so he just attaches a camera so that the poor robot can finally see again. They all get into the RV and begin their journey to San Francisco. Soon enough Jeff is increasingly curious about learning everything that Finch does. They manage to stay away from the storm so far, so they decide to make a stop in a deserted town, and since Finch is wearing the protection suit, he calls Jeff to go out with him. He takes this as an opportunity to teach Jeff the basics of scavenging resources, and all the hazards from the sun. The two of them have some fun as they see a couple of corns pop in the sun. While it is really dangerous, you can't deny it's useful for movie theaters. But obviously, this is much more dangerous than fun, and they are reminded of this as the storm soon approaches. They gather everything and try to outrun the storm, but they are caught. Finch hurries to go and attach the RV with wires and protect it, and he asks Jeff to help him out. Finch gets tired, but Jeff manages to complete the task without him. Finch gets in the RV and secures it from inside too. As the massive storm hits, the wires snap, and only one remains by the moment the storm has passed. Even though Finch is proud of Jeff's work, he's still angry that the front tire of the vehicle is ruined, and even though they have a spare tire, they don't have a jack to lift the car. Jeff uses his strength to lift the RV while Finch changes the tire. The next morning, Jeff is trying to communicate with Goodyear, but Finch tells him that he'll need to give Goodyear some time first. Later that day, they pass a board pointing that they are at 1,522 miles from San Francisco. Jeff goes on to ask Finch what it means to trust, so Finch, shocked, decides to tell him a story of his life to better explain. He tells him how he solved a big software issue and shared the credit with the whole team. This way he earned their trust. Even though he's still driving and keeping up with their mission to get to San Francisco, his health is getting worse, and he decides to stop at a restaurant. There he vomits blood. Time is running short and he knows it. Finch takes Goodyear inside the restaurant to play with him for a while. Back in the RV, Jeff is playing around. He puts the music on and tries to drive it, but since he still doesn't really know how to do it, he takes off the handbrake and crashes the RV into a car. In no time, Finch goes to confront Jeff about it. The robot only acts innocent as he reverses the RV and crashes once again. Finch is furious, and he also demonstrates what happens to skin when exposed to the current sunlight as he burns. He yells at Jeff and tells it that its only responsibility is to take good care of Goodyear. They leave the restaurant, and Finch decides it could be a good moment to teach Jeff how to drive. Even though the robot is a bit clumsy, he gets the hang of it soon enough and starts driving smoothly. Finch is satisfied and a little proud, but our resident good boy isn't convinced yet. As they stop to camp for the night, they get to see the northern lights thanks to the issue with the ozone layer. Jeff says they could just travel at night and get there faster since the day is also so dangerous, but Finch tells him it's a bad idea to do it, as some survivors go out at night to get food, and they could attack them. The next morning, Finch once again vomits blood and shivers, and Jeff tries his best to take care of him. They get back on the road, and they arrive at a major city. Jeff decides to wake up the rest of the group to scavenge for supplies. They find a hospital that looks damaged and looted, but he goes inside anyway to see what he can find. When Finch wakes up, he realizes that neither one of his robots are there. Even though his health is so precarious, he knows this means trouble, so he gets in his suit and gets out to try and find his robots. Someone watching from the shadows observes this. Meanwhile, Jeff is glad to find some food and medicine, and some nice clothes he can actually wear. Dewey also finds some snacks, but accidentally activates a bear trap. Finch manages to find the poor robot just in time. The machine apologizes and turns off. Then a rumbling sound starts. Luckily, Finch also finds Jeff, and claims the place is no longer safe for them. They need to get out. As they try to escape, Finch is barely able to stand, let alone run. Upon reaching the RV, they start to drive off as fast as they can, but a vehicle is following them. Finch gives the steering wheel to Jeff, warning him to not make a single mistake. The robot also notes that there's a vehicle following them. They turn off the headlights. Since Jeff is able to see in the dark, they can keep on driving. Finch says they need to speed up, and Jeff does so, but they are now driving into the storm. Finch takes the wheel and steers it so they are off the road. He plans to use the underpass. Jeff doesn't think it's a good idea. He's already done the calculations and the RV is too tall for the underpass, and tries to explain this to Finch. The man does not listen and decides to keep on driving. He crashes the RV's solar panel and completely destroys them. The RV gets stuck, so Jeff has to use its strength to push the car inside. The chasing vehicle stops and drives away. Now that they are no longer being chased, Finch hurries outside in the RV and learns about all the damage he's done to the RV, and how he messed up the solar panels. He blames himself and complains that he cannot repair them. Jeff tries to cheer him up by assuring him that he can still take them to San Francisco. But Finch isn't going to have anyone talk to him. He's really angry and yells at Jeff to stop talking. Finch gets in the vehicle, leaving Jeff sad and alone in the rain. Jeff once again assures him that they'll make it to San Francisco and that he's sure they can get to the Golden Gate. Finch decides it's time to go ahead and tell them another story, the one about why he doesn't trust people and how he found Goodyear in a bag. The poor doggo was sad, lonely, and abandoned, and he promised to protect him no matter what. Humans can become monsters with hunger, said Finch, but he mentioned that it turned him into just a coward. He kept hiding as some young guys killed a girl and her mother at the supermarket. It was just too much for Finch. The next morning on the road, another sign read that they were 480 miles from San Francisco. They might really make it now. Jeff is driving while Finch sleeps, and notices that there's a butterfly in the windshield. He even wakes up Finch to point to the butterfly. Finch stretches his hand and notices that the sun is not damaging it. They stop, and he gets out of the RV, and for the first time in a long time, he feels the sun on him. The UV radiation is much decreased, it's not even a threat at this point. He even sees flowers and another butterfly. He's overjoyed. Hooray! Does this mean there's hope for the crew? They continue their trip, and they see that there are flowering fields and grass. They even decide to stop and have a picnic in the sun, and Finch doesn't even have to wear his protective suits, just plain clothes. Finch tells them stories of his past, and he realizes he really wants to keep on making new memories. Jeff is also excited, especially to see Finch so happy. The robot also notes that if they leave and start moving right now they'll make it to the Golden Gate in about 18 hours. But Finch says he's not going to make it. Jeff is really sad and vows to protect and take good care of Goodyear when he's gone. They stop the car, and Finch takes Goodyear out, and his ball to play a game of fetch there, maybe a last one. He also hands the ball to Jeff and tells him this is the first step to earning Goodyear's trust. This is how they'll create a bond. They are having fun, peace at last. But Finch starts coughing blood. Jeff is desperate to help, but Finch says he's already helped him enough. They shake hands and hug each other. Jeff might be a robot, but he does have feelings. He gets Finch in the RV while Goodyear accompanies the dying man. Jeff gathers all their stuff. Finch pets his dearest friend one more time, his last goodbye to his dearly beloved Goodyear, and quietly passes away. Jeff and Goodyear cremate Finch in the plains along with his UV suit. He's at peace now. They mourn the man that's now gone. And after that, they keep on with their journey. Jeff has to continue the daily routine and feed Goodyear, and then they stop again to play fetch. The little dog is starting to feel safe with the robot, and there's a change of attitude. Jeff is now responsible for Goodyear, and this is what he's vowed to do. They are finally friends. The moment finally came. They arrived at the Golden Gate Bridge, and Jeff built a tribute for Finch. They even find a lot of messages for people trying to let their loved ones know how and where to find them. This means that there really are more survivors in the city. And while there is life, there is hope. We see Jeff sticking his drawing of Finch, Goodyear, and himself to the fence. The robot and the dog now leave for somewhere else. Before you go, please subscribe to this channel for more videos like this, switch on notifications, and leave a like to support us.